From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt. Noel is not here today.
They call me Ben. We're joined with our guest super producer, Max Freight Train Williams. Most importantly, you are here, and that makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. Fellow conspiracy realists, we spend our weekends, our waking and sleeping hours scouring through the news, just like everybody else in this day and age. We find that there is a lot of stuff that either doesn't make it into the headlines or doesn't really get the analysis it deserves. And as a matter of fact, Matt, right before you and I went on air with our pal Max, we were talking about all the stories that we wanted to get to but might not get to. Maybe we start with our pals at Fox News. They've run into some money problems, I think.
Well, they got in trouble with the whole Dominion defamation thing, where they talked about how Dominion voting machines were supposedly easily hackable and used to throw an election, but then found out that it was known within the organization that that was a false story. That was not real. And they were involved in a huge lawsuit, and I believe it was settled, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was settled for $787 million US, which is less than I want to say over $1 billion in damages that Dominion was seeking. And it's interesting when you read the statement, because the statement has some squirrely language in there. Something like, the courts have found that some of these statements are inaccurate regarding Dominion, or something like that. And that's not the same thing as saying we knew what we were doing when we misled the American public. And also, Matt, that's just the horizon, right? Like, there's more stuff in the way. I'm thinking of the Smartmatic lawsuit that is still pending. That's another voting tech company.
Yeah, you're talking about for Fox News, like what they're going to have to deal with here in just a bit.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, let's stay on some topics we've been discussing here at length. Let's talk JPMorgan Chase and a little guy named Epstein.
Oh. Tight. Yeah. Yeah, the infamous criminal, child abuser, secret keeper, possibly tied with intelligence networks, Jeffrey Epstein, whose last name has become synonymous with dodgy or murky suicides. Please hear the air quotes around suicides there. Just because Epstein has left, I guess, the news cycle doesn't mean that the Epstein saga ever stopped. I mean, Matt, you remember when we were on the road. We were in Florida, I want to say, when Epstein's death hit the news, and we recorded a 3-part episode on the speculation surrounding Jeffrey Epstein. And we also kind of knew, I think, pessimistically, that whatever his black book was, being the list of clients and associates and whatever video footage he captured of them committing crimes against children, I think we kind of assumed it wouldn't reach to the public, but the case is continuing, and it's bringing in some otherwise untouchable people. So what's the Morgan connection here?
Well, JPMorgan Chase and Co., by the way, don't forget the and Co.
And Co.
They've got a leader, person that runs the show over there, person named Jamie Dimon. You might recognize that name. He's become quite a bit of a public figure. I mean, he's been CEO of that organization for a while. He is going to have to be subjected to questioning for, I believe, at least according to ABC News, 2 days of questioning from attorneys handling lawsuits over whether or not the bank itself can be held liable for the abuses that Jeffrey Epstein carried out. So that's a bit of a weird thing, right? Can a bank be held liable for that kind of thing?
And for anyone playing along at home, that's Jamie Dimon, Dimon, not Diamond, which would be way more on the nose.
No, it's not Diamond.
Oh, loose diamonds over here. This has been a while in coming. We know that it goes back to, I want to say, March of this year when a U.S. judge ordered JPMorgan Chase and Co. to hand over some more documents about their chief executive. And this was part of is part of a U.S. Virgin Islands lawsuit accusing, as you said, Matt, the bank of knowingly aiding and abetting sex trafficking.
Yep. And according to Darren Oduyoye, I think that's how you might say it, this is a JPMorgan spokesperson, quote, Jamie Dimon does not recall ever meeting, speaking, or communicating with Jeffrey Epstein. There was somebody at the bank that has sued one of its former, I guess, C-suite executives for allegedly hiding the abuse that Jeffrey Epstein was carrying out, as well as the trafficking itself, like, I guess, the money that was used to traffic people. As well as keeping Jeffrey Epstein as like an internal close client for the bank. So, that's an interesting story. Who knows if there's any real sand there? JPMorgan kind of, expectedly is saying this is a media stunt. This has nothing to do with reality. This isn't real. But maybe it is. Maybe it's worth questioning for a couple days just to see.
JPMorgan also called the lawsuit from the U.S. Virgin Islands a, quote, fishing expedition.
True.
Yeah. So as this case continues to wend its way through the court system, one thing's for certain, you're not going to see a ton of headlines about it, right? Fox News is not going to report on this. Fox News may report on this, but they're not going to report on it in a thorough, in-depth way. Sort of like how they haven't said much on air about the Dominion defamation suit.
Nope.
So
they haven't.
Is the first part of this week's Strange News segment just weird lawsuits that you should know
kind
about?
of. We got one more.
Ooh,
if you want it.
Yeah.
Johnson & Johnson, a family company. You know them. You love them. They've been around for a long time. If you were a kid, if you were a baby, you probably had this stuff called baby powder applied to your body, mostly your nether regions, most likely, because that's what it was used for.
Yeah,
your Netherlands or your Australia. And it was used on me. I ended up using it a lot throughout school. The talcum powder, this stuff that's supposed to help you, especially if you're an athlete, like help you keep your body parts from rubbing together and getting all chafed up. And there are all kinds of other reasons, at least that were given to me when I was younger, for using baby powder or talcum powder. Well, turns out there are a lot of cases that are alleging that talcum powder, specifically talcum powder and baby powder created by a Johnson & Johnson subsidiary, cause cancer, which, wouldn't be great. Turns out there are tens of thousands of lawsuits that allege this, that the company and its subsidiaries are trying to deal with. And Ben, it's the numbers that really get you on this one, because we talked about the Fox News huge defamation lawsuit, right? What was it, $700-something million?
$787.5 million.
Well, guess what? Johnson & Johnson and their subsidiary are looking to, quote, halt cancer lawsuits as it pursues an $8.9 billion with a B dollar settlement.
Yeah, and this is coming to us, at least I saw it via Reuters.
Yep, Reuters posted on April 18th. By
Dietrich Nauth, Knauth. So they're asking the judge and this is happening in the U.S. court system, they're asking the judge to pump their brakes, right?
Yeah. The problem is, and I'm not fully up on this, everyone, so please go look at the story yourself, but there was some kind of bankruptcy attempt from I guess one of the plaintiffs, and it was ruled to be a quote fraudulent attempt to go through the bankruptcy process to basically say, hey, we can't pay you, we don't have any money, but I guess that was wrong.
Yeah, so this comes from a place called LTL Management, and there's an ongoing pattern. From what I understand here, Matt, the bankruptcy worries were in the minds of the folks running the class action lawsuit. They were kind of a matrix dodge, right?
Mm-hmm. Like an attempt.
Right. You know, I was just listening to our earlier rent to own episode, which is something like brilliant business or brutal corruption. And what it really drove home to me was the ways in which an individual versus a corporation, the ways in which they differ as far as the legal system is concerned. Imagine if you were just you, fellow conspiracy realist, and you had tens of thousands of people suing you and saying that you gave them cancer. Imagine the chutzpah it would take to show up in court and say, hey, guys, let's take the day. You know what I mean? Let's chill for a sec.
Well, it's nuts because, okay, it's basically Johnson & Johnson saying, hey, everybody, all you plaintiffs, you tens of thousands of plaintiffs complaining about cancer that our product gave you, we're going to give y'all $8.9 billion. And let me tell you about that $8.9 billion. That's $6.5 billion for ovarian cancer claims, $2 billion for mesothelioma claims, and a big old nice $400 million to, quote, according to Reuters, settle consumer protection and false marketing claims brought by state attorneys general.
Let me add this too. Important correction, just to clarify. LTL Management is the outfit that is negotiating settlements for the talc claims as Johnson & Johnson is making the bankruptcy move or the bankruptcy attempt. But look, no matter how things work out on the balance sheet, one thing is for sure, these people have cancer. And the commonalities that they are finding in their experience, similar to those 6 former athletes on the Philadelphia Phillies, they're finding that these commonalities in their argument point to one thing, and that's these products made by Johnson & Johnson.
Hey, but of course, according to Johnson & Johnson, its baby powder and talc products are, quote, safe and do not cause cancer. Unquote.
Oh, good.
So, hey, there's that.
Did they bring that up in court?
I feel like they did.
Why did they just say it?
Should have just said that. We'd be finished with this whole rigmarole.
Matt and I, by the way, we're past the point of no return because we were lounging around in AstroTurf around 24 hours ago.
It was one time, and we didn't get any of the little black dots of the old rubber tires in our mouths, so that was good. I almost put some of the blades in my mouth, but I didn't.
Dude, you know what that makes me think? Whenever somebody says it was one time, it makes me think of something that I'm surprised doesn't exist in the U.S. legal system yet, which is calling something Vegas rules. Like, what if you could plead Vegas rules in court? You know? Your Honor, it was one time, and I plead Vegas rules. What happens there stays there.
Yeah. Comp me the room, please, if you would.
Comp me the room, and I'll be out of town by the time the water drops in Lake Mead, okay?
Oh, snap.
So now that we've talked about some of this ongoing litigation, we do have to point out that none of the cases we mentioned have reached like a standing decision in the court system. But things can change depending on your perspective. And I think one thing that Matt and I have learned over the years is that people behave very differently depending on whom they perceive as their audience. We're going to take a break for a word from our sponsor, and then we're going to travel to Oklahoma. And if you were listening today and you were thinking, man, I'm having such a great day, this day is too good, then don't worry. We got your back.
Oklahoma, where a sheriff plans hiring hitmen and a commissioner talks of pre-dug holes, but their target recorded the whole thing. Oklahoma's where we're going for this next story. Okay, I'm going to stop now.
What? No, get to do the bridge. You got to do the bridge.
I know.
Can't do the whole musical
thing.
Rules.
There are a lot of characters in that song, by the way. If you ever watch the whole thing,
it's a posse track. Yeah,
it really is. Well, hey, we're going to Oklahoma. Let's start with the first news headline that I personally read that led me down a rabbit hole. Ben, I know you jumped into this story pretty heavily too. This is what I first read from news9.com. FBI investigating alleged death threats made by county officials against Oklahoma newspaper reporters. Posted on April 16th at 10:19 p.m. That was a Sunday. Okay, so that right there, there's a recording and there's some death threats that are happening against journalists in Oklahoma. Where in Oklahoma? Why, in McCurtain County. Like, that's the curtains. Maybe in your apartment or your house.
Curtains by McDonald's.
County.
Yeah.
Curtains by McDonald's. Yeah, this is real. And the Federal Bureau of Investigation is really investigating the following. There is a man named Bruce Willingham who happened to work at this place called the McCurtain Gazette News. It's a family-owned business that's been around since the early 1900s. We're talking like 1909. This person, Bruce, got wind of a potentially bad thing that was happening in his hometown there in McCurtain County. Allegedly, at least the rumor that he heard, was that commissioners were meeting in secret with the sheriff department and people from the investigating side of the sheriff's department, such as a sheriff's investigator and district commissioners. And this was really troubling because these meetings were happening immediately following the official public meetings, right?
Okay.
When these commissioners and sheriffs get together to have a meeting, it's supposed to be public record. That's why there are minutes to these meetings. That's why you can go back as somebody who lives in that county and see exactly what Commissioner Mark Jennings, who's a part of District 2, by the way, what he said in the meeting, or what District 3 Commissioner Robert Beck said in that meeting. Or even the McCurtain County Sheriff, Mr. Kevin Clardy, Clardy. Well, for Bruce to find out if this were true, he spoke to some attorneys, and they informed him that it would be completely legal for you to have a, let's say, voice-activated recording device that you would use to conduct an interview or something, and leave that, somewhere in the room where the public meeting is occurring, and then walk out of the room, and then come back and get it later. Well, that's indeed what he did. And when he came back to get his recording device, he had over 3 hours of audio of, in fact, a secret non-public meeting that was occurring between those district commissioners I just mentioned, the county sheriff, a sheriff's investigator, Alicia Manning, a jail administrator named Larry Hendricks, and a commissioner's secretary, Heather Carter.
And this was clearly a little water cooler conversation. They're probably just catching up on episodes of The Mandalorian or debating Police Academy 4, surely.
Oh, maybe. Well, why don't we go check and see what Bruce posted? Because he actually posted a partial transcript of this, and he's going to be posting more. He also posted excerpts from the audio that you can listen to right now if you want to. Let's just dig in. Let's see what happens. So there is a Google document that was shared out that you can read of this transcript. This transcript can also be found partially in places like the Oklahoman. It was also even mentioned, I saw, by Rachel Maddow, who even played some of this audio on her show. But if you want to read it, you can find it. Just search for it. We'll tell you about this March 6th, 2023 meeting that was held in secret. At first, at least the first thing that was shared by Bruce is they're discussing barbecue, except not barbecue food. They're talking about a victim of a tragedy, someone who died by a fire, and they're discussing with very gallows humor, maybe not discussing, they're comparing this person's remains to barbecued meat. It's very disturbing. It's messed up. I don't think we need to go fully into that right now. The next thing that is posted here is discussing racism within the county government. This is pretty disturbing. It's really disturbing, actually. This specific part of the transcript inspired a fairly large protest at the sheriff's department there in McCurtain County, because they are very clearly racist against people of color, specifically black people, and they say horrible things. I don't want to repeat these things on the show today, but you can find this and look it up. They're basically saying, if you could do the stuff you used to be able to do to black people, these guys are all white, by the way, then yeah, we could get somebody to run for sheriff, but not now, because, you know, quote, they've got more rights than we got, unquote. They're discussing hanging people, lynching people, and putting them in a creek, basically. Really messed up. But the reason we're talking about it today, and the reason why this recording was so maybe important to Bruce's life, is because of the following. Okay, so we're going to read from this transcript now with Ben and myself and Max playing these characters. We're going to state the name of the person who is speaking before we read the line, what they said. Here we go.
All right, I'm Manning. They are insignificant in my life, really. They bring no...
Sheriff, the old saying is, what goes around, goes around. It will. I told you it will.
Jennings, I know where 2 deep holes are, if you ever need them.
Sheriff, I've got an excavator.
Jennings, well, these are already pre-dug. Okay, so let's talk about context here. They are discussing, when Manning says they are insignificant in my life, really, they're discussing Bruce Willingham and his son, Chris Willingham, who is also a reporter at the McCurtain Gazette News. So they are discussing 2 deep holes where, you know, the implication, as we would say, is that these are holes where you could bury somebody, right? And the sheriff comes in and says, well, if you need other holes or a bigger hole, I've got an excavator that could assist you in that. Pretty messed up, right? Well, it gets worse. We're going to move on to a section titled Hiring Hitmen. Let's do this one too, guys. Jennings. But the thing of it is, you know...
Manning, we actually told the truth.
Jennings, I've known 2 or 3 hitmen. They're very quiet guys.
Manning, yeah?
Jennings, and would cut no f***ing mercy.
Manning, yeah.
Jennings, in Louisiana, because this is all mafia around here.
Kevin, oh yeah.
Manning, yeah, but here's the reality. If a hair on his wife's head, Chris Willingham's head, or any of those people that really were behind that, if any hair on their head got touched by anybody, who would be the bad guy?
Sheriff, who would be blamed for it?
Manning, yeah.
Just going to add another Kevin line. Kevin goes, day bow bow.
Kevin says, guys, should we be talking about any of this?
Right. Kevin saying, hey, could you speak closer to my clavicle? I like how we're giving people's first and last names as we speculate about murders. This seems very, very, first off, horrifying.
Well, it is horrifying. But we're saying these names out loud like this because we're letting you know who's speaking, right? If you've listened to the audio, it's just people having a conversation. It feels super informal. Oh,
no, Matt. I'm specifically talking about when Manning says a hair on his wife's head, Chris Willingham's head. Like naming that way. And you know, props to you and Max for the excellent voice work there. We did pull Max in at the last second. So thanks for Okay.
Yeah, no, thank you, Max. Thank you, sir. But really, you can find the actual recording of that. We're just trying to illustrate here and speak it as clearly as possible so you can understand what's being said. This is a conversation that was recorded without any of the people involved's knowledge, right?
Right.
Which is the next thing we need to talk about, because at least initially, according to the sheriff's department, this recording was made illegally. It would fall under some of the wiretapping laws, like the one in Georgia that states if you are not a party to a conversation, you are not allowed to record anybody else. And in the very least, it couldn't be used in a court of law as evidence, right? It would just be maybe something that leads down a further investigation. So the sheriff's department is saying, you know, this is not real, it's an informal thing. We think maybe this audio is doctored. This couldn't possibly, you know, this isn't real. At least, and if it is real, it's illegal. But then other things started happening.
Other things such as?
Such as the Oklahoma governor, the person who runs the entire state, came out and said, guys, we're going to need all of y'all to resign. Specifically, I mean, these are all officials, right? They're county commissioners, a county sheriff, they're a sheriff's investigator, an administrator. The governor said, we need you to resign. Basically, as a state, we're going to need you to get out of your positions. Yeah. And again, they were all fighting back. This was all happening starting on April 16th again. And now it is, as we're recording this, Wednesday, April 19th. And as of today, guys, a McCurtain County commissioner has resigned. Mark Jennings, one of the people that we just spoke to, we spoke their words, right? He handed in his resignation just 2 days after this audio left. And check this out. Alicia Manning, Sheriff Kevin Clardy, and Administrator Larry Hendricks were all suspended from the Oklahoma Sheriff's Association on Monday when this audio was first leaked or released.
I mean, threatening to kill a journalist, threatening any extrajudicial killing is squarely against the law. You know, there's a good question whether or not these people will actually be prosecuted, right? Or will they plead something like will they plead intent, saying, hey, this is just gallows humor? Also, the Kevin you mentioned, Matt, is indeed the Kevin who on the transcripts, how ridiculous, how cartoonish is this? On the transcript aspects that our journalist shares, Kevin is the one who just sort of leans in and goes, oh yeah. Like, wait, what are you doing, Kevin? You're a weird hype
And he's
man.
the sheriff.
And you're
he's
the sheriff. Yeah. Which does count legally. Yeah. You could count that as consenting, co-signing, acknowledging premediation, you know?
Mm-hmm. There's another wrinkle to this whole situation. You may think, why in the heck would all of these high-level people in this county want to go after some journalists? That doesn't make much sense, right? Why would you want to do that? Maybe they are writing some stories that, you know, made the commissioners look bad or something, or made the county look bad or its leadership. And yes, that is exactly what happened. And the Gazette News, the organization that Bruce and Chris Willingham worked for, was already suing the county in federal court. So there was already a court case. So in a way, you could argue, if you're the FBI, that these folks might be attempting to do some sort of, I guess it wouldn't be witness tampering or, you know, killing a witness or anything like that, but it would be pretty close to that, wouldn't it? If there's already a federal court case and you take out the people who are suing, I don't know. Can really show some motive or some intent there.
It doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't. So, hey, we're going to have to keep an eye on this, see where it goes. Let us know if you have more information. But for now, we're going to take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back with more strange news.
Chinese spies are watching you. They see your every move. We're back. we're back.
I love this. We have to sing the opening to every Strange News segment now. This is the best.
You're singing. I'm kind of doing like a Shatner, Tom Waits thing.
That was great. What are you talking about?
You're too kind, man. I'm glad we got AstroTurf cancer together, Matt.
Oh, yay.
This is a true story, folks. You may recall that a while back, we talked in a little bit of depth, in medium depth, about the so-called secret police stations that the Chinese government has created in multiple countries across the planet. Quite recently, Uncle Sam made some moves against some of these institutions, these structures located in the continental United States. U.S. prosecutors arrested 2 men in Manhattan, New York, for allegedly operating a, quote, secret police station in Chinatown, right in Manhattan. And 6 more stations of this sort are currently under scrutiny in the United States. Why is this an important update? Well, because there's stuff that's not getting in the news about this, and there's not a lot of conversation that is doing its due diligence to inform the public. I'd like to talk with you guys, Max, about a couple issues here. First, Matt, you remember the story, right? When we started talking about these things, why are they called secret police stations?
Yes, I definitely remember this. I guess they're called secret police stations because they're not a police station the way you would think of one, right? Mm-hmm. They, at least according to the PRC, the People's Republic of China, they are service stations, right? Didn't we learn that China says these things that are popping up that the FBI was investigating when we last talked about it, they're there to help people with things like driver's license and official documentation while, like, Chinese nationals while they are inside the United States.
Yeah, 100%. Nailed it. The idea being, hey, maybe English is not your native language or a language in which you are proficient. We are here to help you handle paperwork. Maybe you want to wire money back home. Maybe you want a coordinated trip to see relatives, and so on. That's the official position of the Chinese government. And if that is absolutely true, then it makes sense. What we're looking at is the function of a foreign service, right? A consulate, an embassy. Mm-hmm. Problem is, China already has those in every single country where they've got these service centers in addition. And in the U.S., as well as in many other countries, people who are, like in this situation, people who are Chinese American are voicing concerns. They're saying their families back in mainland China are being threatened. They're saying they're being harassed. There are allegations, not proven yet, that the government of China is attempting to conduct some turning operations, saying, hey, you work in this field, report back to us. Here's a picture of, your uncle over in Shanghai or something. And while this speculation happened, one of the really dangerous things about it is, I would argue, it encouraged a wave, it accelerated a wave of anti-Asian discrimination. It accelerated a wave of xenophobia in particular. And different bad faith actors glommed onto this as a way to platform their own agendas. But you have to understand that if these accusations are true, taking political ideology to one side, it's a very dangerous thing, right? Because they are threatening U.S. nationals on U.S. soil.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's talk about the 2 guys that got arrested for this and then how China describes them. Okay, so they're older gentlemen, right? They're older guys. Mm-hmm. One of them is 59 years old as of the moment they were picked up, and the other one is 61 years old.
Right. Spring chickens, they are not.
No, they're not. And according to China, this particular police station or service station, as well as all the others, are, quote, volunteer run, right? So they're not I remember this from our last discussion, the people who operate these things and work at these locations are not official members of some police force, right? Within China or anything like that, or some kind of National Guard or anything like that.
Right.
They're volunteers.
Yeah, they're not employed directly by the PRC, but neither is the 50 Cent Army, right? Or the hacking initiatives. Yeah, you're making a really good point, because if it's just people doing volunteer work, right, laboring for their conscience, then do they count as spies? Do they count as undeclared foreign operatives? It's also, by the way, it's totally fine to be a spy. You just it's so dumb. It's like how the IRS specifically doesn't care if you make money from crime. They just want their cut. So like if you back before cannabis was being decriminalized across the US, the IRS would technically require you to report profits made from selling cannabis, and then give them, whatever their blood price is. And it's weirdly similar with foreign intelligence operations across the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, apparently it's totally legal to hang with spies, to be a spy in the United States. You just got to tell the White House. You just got to say, like, hey, I'm here. I'm going to do some sketchy stuff. And they'll be like, oh, tight, bro.
And they just put somebody on you and you're good.
They just put someone on you who becomes your new neighbor, your new best friend. Yeah, the FBI raided this facility in Manhattan in October. And before they raided it, this group was coordinating, per Uncle Sam, they were coordinating widespread harassment of primarily Chinese Americans who were criticizing the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. And now the U.S. is joining the chorus of other countries who say that the Chinese Ministry of Public Security has established hundreds of such operations across the planet. Interestingly, also, I believe the Department of Justice here in the States charged 44 different Chinese officials, in addition to the 2 American citizens they just arrested. And their charges are enforcing Chinese laws on U.S. soil. It's strange, man. Curiouser and curiouser. Here's the plot twist question. Matt, have you thought about the timing on this thing? I think there might be some reindeer games, dude.
There is some weird timing. We discussed it just the other day. The Pentagon came out and, without saying it, signaled pretty heavily that we are preparing for potential actual hot conflicts with our 2 main adversaries, China and Russia. And this is, of course, by attempting to get a whopping $850+ billion for the defense budget for the Pentagon. It makes a lot of sense. There's some serious tension going on in Taiwan right now with not just the United States and China, but with several other allies of the United States, and China's posturing there in Taiwan. I don't know what else. There's a lot going on right now.
So, yeah, Taiwan is sending signals increasingly about shoring up defense. There are a lot of analyses that have gone into the public sphere that would ordinarily not be a dinner table conversation for John and Jane Q. Public here in the States, but they're things like figuring out the likelihood of a successful invasion of Taiwan by Chinese forces. And then China also conducted some, let's call them warm-up games to figure out how to encircle Taiwan, right? And of course, the U.S. has the world's most dangerous Navy. So how will these resources move around?
Don't forget the Restrict Act.
Right. Don't forget the Restrict Act. They said, oh, you're going for Taiwan? Screw TikTok then, bro. And
Yeah. Yeah.
And
boy.
It sounds so weird, so surreal that these two things would be related, but they like all of these things are related. Nothing occurs in a vacuum. And the thing that's nuts to me about this, Matt, and I suspect you and Max may share the same spidey sense about this. The United States does run a pretty tight ship, and in this regard, such that they clearly knew about these stations before the news went public. You know what I mean? Like, as soon as people in Chinatown and Manhattan were getting pushed or pressed or turned, they were probably aware. They keep five eyes on that, you know?
Yeah. Of course, they weren't aware of Jack Teixeira.
Uh-huh. All right.
Just saying.
Remains to be seen. Remains to be seen. We will see. We'll see. We'll see what the official conclusion is on that one. But yeah, you're right. I'm saying though, with these kind of established channels that are happening, they know those strategies. They know that process. So I feel like they knew well before they ever went public. And it was kind of a save it in your back pocket thing.
Yeah, that totally checks out.
Does that sound crazy?
At least logically. No, checks out for me logically. Just kind of sitting on it, waiting to pull the trigger when they needed to.
Because again, one of the best ways to run a counterintelligence operation is to not immediately kick the fox out of the hen house, but to let the fox think you don't know where it's at.
And what's that fox doing? Let's just watch it for a while. Listen.
Wait, what was that song? What does the fox...
What does the fox say? Or what the fox say? I can't remember. I don't know how to do it. I just remember it's like...
Yes. And that comes directly from, as you know, folks, that comes directly from a sealed diplomatic cable between these police
Two
stations
foxes
at Beijing, who are run by anthropomorphic foxes. Why does this matter? Well, it matters for a couple of incredibly important reasons. The first reason is that any U.S. national should not be threatened by a foreign government on U.S. soil. You know what I mean? Like, imagine you are walking through, let's go to Oklahoma. Why not? Let's go back to Oklahoma. Imagine you're walking through Oklahoma and all of a sudden a bunch of sketchy Germans roll up on you because your grandfather is German or was German. And they're like, hey, you need to tell us what's something stupid that people would have secrets about.
Oh, hello, Mr. Frederick.
Oh, snap. Why are you guys in lederhosen?
Well,
okay. All right.
It's a Tuesday.
Okay. But our example. Okay. We'll put that in the director's cut. We should start a Patreon. But this, while you may not hear the full sketch we just did, which is amazing, by the way, and features Max Williams yodeling, you will be interested, I think, in noticing how dangerous that situation becomes, right? Especially in the United States, where so many people come from so many different places. That's the first reason this is dangerous. And I would count the timing there, as sus as it may be, as part of number one. The second problem with this, which is readily apparent, I hope, is that it is accelerating prejudice, it's accelerating discrimination, it's aiding and abetting a lot of racism. And you have to be careful when you read how these things are reported, right? More racist outlets are going to try to paint 1.4 billion people as some sort of monolithic supervillain when it couldn't be further from the truth.
Well, and even outside of the racism, it's pressurizing the already existing pressure like the diplomatic pressure that exists between rival countries, right? I mean, it's not good.
And additionally, okay, so now that we know this, and well said, Matt, we also have to ask, why people aren't talking about the Confucius Institute, which we cited earlier. That's soft power. That's diplomacy, right? This is how some of this geopolitical chess can occur, right? These are the reindeer games. And the question then becomes, how does the United States, how do other countries handle this stuff? It's not an easy answer. Like if you close all of them down, something else may happen. You may risk infringing upon people's rights in this country or other countries. And then inevitably, one would have to acknowledge the ugly truth that no one likes to talk about, which is that a lot of countries do the same thing. You know what I mean? Extradition treaties are all well and good, but people get snatched, right? People go
they do
go to places that don't officially exist. I mean,
yeah, those black sites. America doesn't have any of those anywhere.
not officially. I say let's leave it here. I think we found some things that are going to probably become full episodes, depending on how things play out. We hope you enjoyed this week's Strange News. We want to hear from you, folks. Thanks, of course, as always, to Max Freight Train Williams for filling in and letting us throw him a Shyamalan plot twist with a harrowing reenactment. Matt.
Appreciate that, Max.
Yeah, appreciate you, Max. Matt, if people want to get in touch with us, and they're not a secret Chinese police station, what's the best way to do so?
Ooh, well, there are a lot of ways. You can find us on our TikTok, while it's still allowed in the United States, where we are Conspiracy Stuff Show, which, by the way, our director, West, Ben, just shared with us the first cut of our secret donor video that we made the other day.
Oh, we're going to have to show Max. All right.
Max, I'm excited about that one.
Will you stay on after we record to watch this one with us? Okay.
Yeah. Perfect. You can also find us on Instagram, where we are, again, Conspiracy Stuff Show. On Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and several other places, we are Conspiracy Stuff, keeping it short. If you don't like connecting with us on social media, why not connect with us on the phone?
Yeah, just like Sauron used to say, give us a ring. 1-833-STDWYTK. You'll hear a voice, you'll hear a beep like so, beep, and then you've got 3 minutes. Go nuts, get wild with it. Give yourself the street name, the nickname you always wanted. Tell us what's on your mind. Let us know if we can use your voice and or message on the air. And most importantly, if you have something that needs more than 3 minutes, if you have links, if you have photos, if you want to take us to the edge of the rabbit hole, send us a good old-fashioned email. We read every message we get where we are.
Conspiracy@iHeartRadio.com. Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.